This is going to be an important question at some point. Who is Georgia's biggest challenge coming into this, second part of the college football season, Matt? I will suggest to you we'll take the easy question out first, which is it really is Georgia. It's up to Georgia. What do the dogs do? Do they mess up along the way or not, or what? But who is out there right now for you that you see as a real problem for the dogs, or who is their biggest, who is more in their way than anyone else?
Well, last week I probably would have said Texas, but as it turns out,
Yeah.
they're not better than Oklahoma. So I think
Do you think
Michigan.
do you think OU is a bigger challenge than Texas? I mean, you and I watched that whole game. It's my opinion that Texas will beat Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game. I don't know if that gets them to the playoff or not, but go ahead.
I just don't think Oklahoma has like guy for guy overall talent from top to bottom. I don't think they have it right now to compete with a team like Georgia, where I thought Texas did. I thought Texas had more NFL talent, better quarterback, even though Dylan Gabriel's really good. But I thought they were ahead of the pace of where Oklahoma is. Was it year 2 or 3 under Venables? Is it
This
just
is year 2 for Venables, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you have to give them all the credit in the world for beating a Texas team that I thought was ahead of them as far as national
Texas
championship
is
contention.
ahead of them. They lost the game though.
Yeah. Um, as far as Georgia's biggest challenge, no one looks as good as Michigan right now, except maybe Penn State. I think either one of those would have to be the answer. Ohio State didn't look all that great. We watched that game in the first half, and Maryland's better than people think, but Ohio State was just messing around too much. That's what we say all the time. They're messing around with them right now. They need to put their foot on the gas and take off like most Ohio State teams would. And they did in the second half, but I still think Penn State and Michigan are better than Ohio State. And then
Well, you think Penn State and Michigan are better than Ohio State? That's what you just said.
that's what I just said
Okay.
right now. I would say that. Out west, Dean, I'm not sold on Washington, Utah, Oregon, USC beating this Georgia team. Maybe I'm wrong with the style of offense they play, but I think they'd all have a real hard time, with the dogs.
Yeah, those teams out west really, clearly they've always been really good at defense. I mean, excuse me, at offense. But now, I think that becomes the question: is will SC and UW and everybody else that's out there, will they, that's undefeated out there, will they, can they play a full game, man? I mean, USC has not played a full game, not on all aspects of their team, and we're going to see someone emerge after UW and Oregon this week. And the winner of that game obviously will be in really good position, but it doesn't end the season. You don't win the national championship or even conference championships in middle of October. I think, I still think Florida State is problematic because if they play really well for four quarters, they can beat Georgia. Michigan can beat Georgia. Man, I'm not sure Ohio State can, Matt. I mean, I go ahead. What's your thought on Ohio State? Because I mean, they can, but I'm just not impressed yet by them. I don't know what the quarterback's not as good. That's the biggest thing.
I was going to say that they don't have this big time quarterback, CJ Stroud, Justin Fields, whoever, playing quarterback. And
Yeah.
it's looked a little difficult for him. It hasn't looked easy like it has for their quarterbacks in the past. But I did forget about Florida State. But as it relates to Ohio State, they'd have to play their A game for 4 quarters. And I just don't
Florida
see that.
State.
I think everyone, now that I think about it,
So
but
you even okay? So let's just get down to it though, real quick. All right, if you look at the betting odds, it goes Georgia, then Michigan. So let's focus just for a second on Georgia and Michigan because that seems to be the consensus of where this is going. I'm going to put this on the screen if I can, without messing things up. And this is not an endorsement. This is just an example. So Georgia's sitting here at plus 250, plus 280, plus 210. Michigan is a bit all over the place. Well, no, they're really 350, and then you've got Florida State, Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, Washington, and then back-to-back Oklahoma and Texas, and then Alabama, and then SC. That's how far down SC is. No respect for SC, which they probably don't, really deserve necessarily. They don't play defense at all. Georgia, then Michigan. I mean, I would imagine Georgia would be about 4 to 3 point, maybe a 6 point favorite against Michigan, somewhere between 4 and 6, something like that.
Well, I think they're very similar teams. Michigan wants to do what Georgia's doing, and that's be tougher and more physical than you. They wanted to be that way 2 years ago, and then Georgia punched them in the mouth 20 times, and then they just didn't have a defense last year against TCU. They fell apart.
What are we missing? What's different now for Michigan than it was a season ago?
That's a great question. Maybe they have a lot of experience coming back, or leadership, I think. But a lot of the same players, maybe their stamina is a little bit better, especially on defense. If they have to get into a big time scoring match, can their defense get enough stops? They're playing really well, but part of me is thinking, it only takes one Saturday for them to play their speed game, and they fumble and lose a game. But they're going to have to play their best against Penn State, and of course they're going to have to play their best against Ohio State, who's lost to them twice. They've got that game circled. Ohio State. They can't lose to Michigan 3 years in a row. I don't know what position Ryan Day is going to be in if they lose to them 3 years in a row. So they have a fight on their hands at the end of the season. But I want to go back to Alabama real quick.
Okay.
Are people writing Alabama off
way too
early?
I think it's a mistake too. I mean, I think actually Alabama matches up really well against Georgia, to be honest with you, because I think that they would.
Said
one more time.
You've said that multiple times recently.
So here's the reason I still think Georgia would win the game, but I think that Alabama matches up well with them, and this is the only reason why. When you take what Georgia experienced against Auburn and you extrapolate that to a much better running quarterback, and frankly a better throwing quarterback in Jalen Milroe, that becomes more problematic, and you add in a much better caliber of defense. That's a much harder fight for Georgia to win. Now, they would probably win the game, but they would only maybe be a 5 to 7 point favorite in that scenario. It wouldn't be a ton. And I think that that's the part to me, Matt, where, they match up pretty well. But I'll tell you one thing right now. Michigan better hope they're playing really hot at the end of the year, because they go, their last 5 games are at Michigan State, who they should beat easily. They play Purdue, who they should beat easily. And then they go to Penn State, to Maryland, and then they host Ohio State. And I do not think they'll lose to Maryland, but they certainly could. They could lose there at the end for sure. And I don't know what the trajectory is if you got to win the East, or you don't go on to the championship game. And then it becomes really problematic to get into the playoff. They don't have any decent wins other than that. I mean, this is their whole season coming up.
Yeah, and we could be in a position where the 4 teams that get into the playoff are the conference champions. And so
you could, yeah.
You want to win that. I mean, if you're Michigan, you got to win both of those games. If you're Penn State, you need to beat Michigan and Ohio State. If you're Ohio State, you got to beat both of them. So they're in a real tough situation up there. If you're Georgia, it's win the East and try to knock off Alabama, and you're in. But this could come down to the wire, and teams have to stay healthy. Of course, health is big there. But if Florida State runs the table, which they absolutely could in the ACC, they're in. Oklahoma would have to beat Texas again, like you said earlier. I feel like you'd have to put the Pac-12 one-loss team. Pac-12 champ with 1 loss has to go in. And so then, I mean, there's only 4 spots. And it seems like there's a lot of really good teams. I don't know if there's a lot of great teams, but every win is crucial, and every loss could be detrimental.
This is the ocean view set from our buddies over at EcoPoly, featuring environmentally friendly poly lumber. Material celebrated for its remarkable resilience against harsh weather conditions, fading and cracking. This low-maintenance material ensures that your furniture retains its pristine appearance with minimal effort, allowing you to fully enjoy your outdoor living space without any hassle. Matt, you can get free shipping as well as 15% off. Let me tell you something. My son, Alex, decided to throw mud all over these chairs the other day, not on purpose. Very easy to clean. So keep that in mind. The link is down below. I think the challenge in the Big Ten too. What happens if these guys split, go 1-1, and everybody goes 1-1? I mean, I don't know that that's going to happen, but it certainly could. And the Big Ten. So the SEC is always fun all the time or whatever. But like, I don't know if Georgia's got the Gators and Tennessee, Mizzou, and Ole Miss, and they've got that sort of close. But the SEC championship is always the pinnacle. The Big Ten, everything is at the end of the season right now. I mean, like, it is all there, and I don't know. I don't know what that's going to be like at the end, but I'll say this: I do think if Georgia gets to the championship game undefeated and they lose to Alabama, that they'd still go to the playoff. I don't think I'm just saying that. I think they would. Now, last time they had beaten Arkansas, who was ranked, Alabama, who was ranked, Auburn, who was ranked, Clemson, who was ranked. They had a lot of ranked wins. But I think in this case, it would just be, people would be like, you're really not going to have Georgia in the playoff? They just won the national championship 2 years in a row.
Yeah, you'd have to have two SEC teams in if that were the case, right? If Georgia doesn't win the SEC and get in, it would have to be Alabama or I guess whoever. But as far as the Big Ten,
LSU. I mean, I just don't.
Or Auburn.
Can Auburn still win the West?
No. I thought you said something different. I thought you were talking about teams that Alabama could lose to.
Oh,
They're not
Alabama can
LSU.
lose to LSU. Alabama can lose to LSU, don't you think?
Where is that at?
It's in Tuscaloosa.
I think Alabama's defense is getting better and better by the week. I think they learned a lot from that Texas game. Then they came out and just throttled Missouri, who scores a lot of points and moves the ball. So I think they're going in the right direction. It's all about that quarterback play, and the run game hasn't been there either. But I do think Alabama's getting better and better. LSU can't stop anyone still. I would be surprised if LSU beat Alabama. But, hey, that game could be a crazy one. Not a rival, are they? Not traditional. But
that's such I can tell you're trying to trigger me before the Braves play, and I'm not going to fall for it. I would argue that although not a traditional rival, over the last 30 years, that has become a rivalry game, and viewed differently by everybody than Georgia Tennessee, which is not going to stick around. So LSU Auburn, LSU's got a lot of weird games, and not having a traditional rival really, I don't know what that means for LSU, but in this case, it means Alabama's a really, really big game for them. It's in Tuscaloosa, but I'm with you. I think, for me, it's whoever emerges from the Pac-12, Texas / Oklahoma, I guess, but Texas, Florida State. I mean, do you give North Carolina or Louisville any shot of getting into the playoff?
If they run the table, you'd have to give them a shot. And depending on how everything goes, and who looks good at the time, who has an injured quarterback who might be missing time. There's a lot to go here, but I think the ones you mentioned are kind of the clear cut ahead of everyone else as far as the final.
Well, and then obviously Penn State and Ohio State as well, but Louisville, North Carolina, they're both undefeated still. But you might be undefeated right now and not play well at the end of the season. We'll just see. Thanks for watching.